You know, in any fantasy world, there's one thing that can be way more confusing than any dragon's hoard, and that's the economy. So today, we're going to dive deep into the money of Dungeons and Dragons and figure out what a single gold piece is really worth. So let's just kick things off with a question you hear at gaming tables all the time. If you actually look at the prices and the wages in the official rulebooks, can a normal person, a farmer, a shopkeeper, a blacksmith, can they actually make a living? A lot of people, players and DMs alike, just feel like the whole system is kind of broken. And yeah, that feeling, it leads us right into what you could call the commoner's paradox. And to get it, all we have to do is look at the numbers, straight out of the player's handbook. Okay, so check this out. If you take the official daily wages and you do the math for a full month, you find out they perfectly match the official monthly lifestyle costs for every single social class. A poor laborer makes 60 silver pieces a month, and a poor lifestyle costs exactly 60 silver pieces a month. So what's the result? Well, everyone from the poorest peasant to the richest noble is making just enough to break even, nothing left over. And that is the paradox. A world where nobody can save money, nobody can invest in their business, and nobody can get ahead. It just doesn't feel right, you know? It doesn't make for a believable living world. It feels, well, honestly, a little hopeless. But what if? What if the numbers in the rulebook aren't the whole story? What if they're really just a starting point for adventurers and not for the regular people who actually live in these towns? All right, let's dive into that idea and see if we can fix this thing. Instead of just throwing all the official numbers out the window, we're going to deconstruct them. We'll take them apart and then rebuild a budget that actually makes sense for your typical NPC. And to build this more believable economy, we're going to follow this really clever three-step adjustment that's been making the rounds in the D&D community. First things first, we're going to take that official lifestyle cost and we're going to chop it right in half. Now, why would we do that? Well, think about it. The rulebook costs are for adventurers who are on the road, right? They're paying for every single meal at a tavern, renting a room every night at an inn. An NPC who actually lives in the town, they own or rent their home. They cook their own food. They mend their own clothes. Their actual day-to-day expenses would be way, way lower. Second, we gotta add a cost that the book completely ignores for commoners: business upkeep. I mean, a blacksmith has to buy coal and iron. A farmer needs to fix their plow. A shopkeeper needs to buy stuff to sell. So we'll estimate this as a recurring cost of about 1/3 of their total monthly income. And finally, yes, the one thing nobody can escape, not even in a fantasy world with dragons: taxes. So we'll apply a simple, flat 10% tax to their income to cover whatever they owe the local lord or the town guard. So, with those three little adjustments, cutting lifestyle costs, adding in upkeep, and applying taxes, where does that leave our average commoner at the end of the month? Well, this simple change creates a completely new economic reality. Just look at that last column: profit. All of a sudden, from the poor laborer to the comfortable merchant, everyone is ending the month with a little bit of money left over. Now, it's not a lot, just 4 silver pieces for someone in the poor class, but here's the thing: it's not zero. They aren't just surviving anymore, they're actually saving. And that tiny little profit, it changes everything. It means that big, really important purchases are suddenly possible. A modest farmer, well, they could save for over a year to buy a single healing potion. It might take them 2 whole years to save up enough for antitoxin if their daughter gets sick. That comfortable blacksmith could buy a brand new set of tools after 5 months of hard work. These aren't just things you buy on a whim, they're long-term goals. You know, this brings us to a term that just perfectly explains why the D&D economy feels so strange to begin with. Most settings, they aren't actually feudal. They are what one writer cleverly called unfeudalism. Sure, they use titles like lord and king, but the world is mostly this vast, dangerous wilderness that's just dotted with independent towns running on a cash economy. The whole structure is built for adventure, not for historical accuracy. So, how does this new budget actually build a more believable world? Well, let's apply it to an example. Let's zoom in on a small mining community we'll call Bobville. So Bobville has a population of about 200 people, and as you can see, the vast majority of its citizens, about 115 of them, fall into that poor lifestyle category. We're talking farmhands, servants, apprentices. Then you've got a smaller group of modest folks like miners and guards, and only a tiny handful of comfortable or wealthy people. So let's meet one of those 115 poor citizens. This is Robin. He's an assistant at the general store. And with our new budget, he's making a tiny profit of just 4 silver pieces each month. Now, for Robin, those 4 silver pieces aren't just pocket change. They represent a dream. Every single one of those coins is a tiny, tiny step toward his goal of one day owning his own shop. It gives him hope. Okay, now let's meet Helgen Starling, the town blacksmith. She's living a comfortable lifestyle, which means her monthly profit is a lot higher, about 4 gold pieces. And for her, that extra money isn't about some far-off dream. It's about security right now. She can afford to keep expensive healing potions on hand just in case there's a dangerous accident at the forge. The stories of Robin and Helgen, they paint a really clear picture of what life is like for an average person. And that picture, well, it puts the life of a player character, an adventurer, into an incredibly stark contrast. And this gets to a really crucial point. An adventurer is not just a person with a sword. Even at level 1, they are basically statistical superheroes. A commoner has average ability scores, maybe 4 hit points. They can be taken out by 1 good hit. An adventurer, they're stronger, tougher, faster, and smarter than almost anybody they'll ever meet in a sleepy little town like Bobville. So remember Robin, our shop assistant saving up his 4 silver pieces a month? Well, one evening, a party of adventurers passes through town. They ask him for directions, and as a thank you, one of them just casually tosses him a small pouch, and inside he finds 10 gold pieces. And this is the heart of the whole thing. To that adventurer, 10 gold pieces is a casual tip. It's pocket change. It's maybe the price of a decent drink at the next inn they stop at. But to Robin, that tip is more than 20 years worth of his savings. It is a life-altering, dream-making fortune, just handed over without a second thought. You know, there's this old saying that just sums it all up perfectly. Common folk, like Robin, they live their lives in a world of copper and silver. But adventurers, oh, they are operating on a completely different economic plane. They are on the plane of gold, the currency of nobles and kings. They don't just have more money. They exist in a different financial reality altogether. It really makes you think, doesn't it? That single coin in your character's pouch isn't just a piece of gold. To the person you give it to, it could be a new tool, it could be medicine for a sick child, or it could be the seed of a lifelong dream. Something to remember the next time you're feeling generous.